So no agreement with the EU, but
Hello viewers and welcome to yet another episode of Government and Public Service Reports on Atlantic Television Network right here in the city of Port Harcourt. News, events and stories abound in the system. ATN's appetite for in-depth, unbiased and factual reportage is the driving principle for this program in order to bring government activities to the doorstep of the people. Now let's go through the highlights of today's report. In River State, police arrest notorious cultists in Diobu. Osun State is hoodlums hold journalists who stage in court. In Lagos State, Assembly to hold public hearing on land grabbing. On governance issues, federal government promises to address underutilization of eastern ports. We'll take a very short break, and when we return, we'll head straight to the details. Please stay tuned.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
you human trafficker.
Honorable they are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
people into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
you human trafficker.
Honorable they are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
so no agreement with the EU, but
You're welcome back, and now we head into the details for today. The River State Police Command says its officers have arrested a notorious cultist involved in a series of killings and armed robberies within the Diobu area of Port Harcourt and other parts of the state. The River State Police spokesperson Grace Iringekoko, in a statement on Tuesday, said the cultist, identified as Samuel Wokoma, age 25, along with his gang, was responsible for the killing of two youths in the Diobu area of Maiwan in Port Harcourt during an attack between March the 14th and 17th, 2024. Iringekoko said that the gang shot dead one Ede Sunday, age 32, on Nanka Street by Lumumba, Diobu, Port Harcourt on March the 14th, and also shot George Johnson, age 28, in the chest on Ojoto Street by Menike Maiwan in Port Harcourt 2 days later. She noted that the notorious cultist was apprehended following credible intelligence by operatives of the C4I strike force of the command in conjunction with the local vigilante, leading to a raid on the camp of the Blood Star cult gang and the recovery of a cache of arms and ammunition. She noted that Johnson, despite receiving immediate medical attention at New Maiwan Clinic, Diobu, died from the injuries sustained from the shot. The police spokesperson added that in a significant breakthrough, Samuel Nwokoma led police operatives to the gang's hideout in Ogu Waterside in Diob, Port Harcourt. However, upon arrival of the police, the remaining gang members fled the scene and attempted to evade capture by jumping into the river. Intensive efforts are currently underway to apprehend the fleeing suspects and bring them to justice. The search conducted at the hideout yielded substantial evidence in the form of recovered arms and ammunition. The recovered items include 3 AK-47 rifles, 1 assault rifle, 6 AK-47 magazines, 1 Beretta pistol, 274 rounds of 7.6 mm live ammunition, 105 rounds of 6.55 live ammunition, and 9 rounds of 9 mm ammunition, 7 packets of improvised explosive devices, 1 long detonating wire, and various types of charms. We have more news still, but don't forget you can connect with us and watch us on our ATN socials, on Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, and on Instagram and TikTok, it's Atlantic TV Network 1. On X, formerly Twitter, it's at Atlantic TV Net. Or you can watch us live on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. And moving on, a man identified as Okon Edet is now in custody for allegedly macheting his father, Edet Oyoho, to death over a parcel of land in Uruting Village, Okobo local government area of Akwa Ibom State. Media learned that the incident occurred on March 13, 2024. When contacted, the State Police Public Relations Officer, Odiko McDonald, confirmed the incident to our correspondent. McDonald stated that the deceased owned numerous parcels of land in the state and that the suspect had admitted to the crime, stating that his father sold some of the land, including the one he had given him to build a house on, as the reasons for his action. He added that when the suspect approached his father to demand payment for the land, he responded that the buyers had not yet made their payments, which led to him viciously beating his father to death. At least 3 of the suspects who killed 17 officers and men of the 181 Amphibious Battalion, Nigerian Army, Otuama, Delta State, last Thursday have been arrested. The arrest came as the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, said yesterday that whoever was responsible for the killing of the military personnel will be brought to justice. He spoke on a day that the governor of Delta State, Sheriff Oboriwori, briefed President Bola Tinubu on the issue at Aso Rock, Abuja, saying that the state is managing the tension caused by the killing and that there won't be further attacks. This is even as the House of Representatives yesterday mandated the Armed Forces of Nigeria to conduct a thorough and wholesome investigation into the circumstances that led to the gruesome killing of military personnel. Press gathered that the suspects were arrested in Port Harcourt yesterday and moved to Army headquarters at Sabah, where they were currently being held. However, the Senate has begun a probe into the killing of the soldiers as it asks its Committee on Defense, Army, Navy, and Air Force to liaise with the military authorities to get more information on the remote and immediate cause of what it described as a dastardly act. It also called on the federal government to identify, apprehend, and prosecute perpetrators of the horrific killing and bring them to book, just as it observed a minute's silence in honor of those killed. The Red Chamber equally asked the federal government to hasten the recruitment and training of more police personnel to take up the job of policing responsibilities, while the Nigerian Army should play its primary role in the affairs of the country. Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State has said that the federal government can tackle the current foreign exchange crisis by advancing fiscal policies to encourage manufacturers to boost local production and access necessary credit to boost exports of Nigerian products. Obaseki spoke when he received the national president of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Otumba Francis Meshonye, with other executives who were on a courtesy visit at the government house, Benin City. The governor, who said that the survival of the nation's economy depended on the Manufacturers Association, noted that Edo State was leveraging its unique advantage with the availability of raw materials for production and manufacturing to drive economic development. He said, Nigeria in the last 40 years has continued to rely on imported goods and services that they don't produce. We have got to a point where we must consume what we manufacture in this nation because we don't have foreign exchange. We don't export any manufactured goods as a nation, and man has a role to help by redirecting the country towards manufacturing. Noting that Edo State has the largest oil palm development program in Africa, the governor said that the state, through the ESOP program, gave 7 investors 70,000 hectares of land to grow oil palm. Earlier, the national president of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria commended the governor's strides in Edo's economy, making the state a leading destination for private sector investments. Governor Ademola Adeleke of Osun State yesterday faulted claims by the All Progressive Congress that his administration spent 18 billion naira to renovate the government house, describing their claim as fake news. He added that the administration did not borrow such for its infrastructure project as claimed by the APC. The governor, in a statement by his spokesperson, Olawale Rashid, described the APC as a party struggling to cope with the reality of its failure in government. The statement read, "Our attention has been drawn to a statement credited to the All Progressive Congress, in which it again repeated its lies about the Osun State government having taken a loan of 10 billion naira to implement current infrastructural programs across the state. We equally rejected fake news that the state government has spent 18 billion naira on the renovation of government house. It is a figment of the imagination of failed men of yesterday. Rather than sponsoring falsehood, we urge the APC to accept it failed while it governed Osun State, and it should be brave enough to commend the present government for succeeding where it recorded mass failure. We affirm once again that the current government has not taken any loans since inception to pursue any program or project. The man who granted the interview on the Nokos YouTube channel lied and acted as a purveyor of fake news." Governor Adeleke had told the public clearly and on several occasions that he is not borrowing to pursue the infrastructural project. Rather, the governor explained that his administration's strategy was to block leakages, expand earnings, and save for projects by opening a project account dedicated to the financing of the projects. The project in question is a multi-billion naira expenditure spread over time designed to bridge the huge infrastructural deficit the governor inherited from Boyega Oyetola administration. Yesterday, today, or tomorrow, no loan is contemplated as the governor has a sustainable investment and implementation plan within the confines of the state's resources. The Edo State Police Command has rescued Reverend Canon Tony Mukoro from suspected kidnappers. Correspondent reports that the victim was abducted by gunmen suspected to be kidnappers at Isiho community in Ovia Northeast local government area of the state while returning home in his car. The public relations officer of the command, Chidi Nwabozo, confirmed the incident to newsmen in Benin City. According to him, the divisional police officer in charge of Ubowa district, Benin City, Edo State, received information that hoodlums accosted and kidnapped the cleric as he was about to drive his Toyota Highlander into his house at Isiho community. Operatives of the division immediately swung into action and intercepted the vehicle. They engaged the hoodlums in a gun duel, and the hoodlums fled during the crossfire, and the victim was rescued unhurt, he said. He said one AK-47 rifle, one expended AK-47 shell, 2 pump-action guns, 14 live cartridges, 1 cap, and a bag were recovered from the suspects. He added that efforts are ongoing to arrest the fleeing suspects and bring them to justice. Findings late Tuesday showed that the chief judge was yet to receive the official notification from the State House of Assembly, which is in sitting, directed the chief judge of Edo State, Justice Daniel Okumoboa, to set up a 7-man committee to look into the allegations of constitutional infractions by the Deputy Governor, Right Honorable Philip Shaibu, which the House said is impeachable, are impeachable offenses. When press tried to reach the Chief Registrar of the Edo State Judiciary, Benson Osage Osawaru, his line was not available, but a source in the office of the Chief Judge said that Justice Okumboa and the office of the Chief Judge was yet to receive any paper from the House. But the source said that if there is any injunction from Abuja and my Oga is served, there is nothing he can do because he has to obey court order. That is if he is served. The Federal High Court is higher than the State High Court, but as far as he does not get any paper from the Federal High Court, he will work with what is before him before it gets any court paper from Federal High Court. Whatever is there will take precedence, he said. Meanwhile, Shaibu is said to be in Abuja as the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja praying the court to stop any impeachment move and has adjourned till today for the parties to be informed and to be in court to say why it should not grant the prayers of Shaibu. Some journalists were held hostage on Tuesday within the premises of the Federal High Court in Osogbo, Osun State. The court heard applications for and against the bail of a member of the Osun Park Management System, Olalekan Oyeyemi, also known as Emir. Oyeyemi, popularly known as Emir, and an ally of the Osun State, Governor Ademola Adeleke, has been on trial on a 10-count charge of conspiracy, malicious damage, unlawful killing, and acts of terrorism. Emir had pleaded not guilty, while his counsel, Edmond Biriomoni, filed a formal bail application for his release, which was opposed by Francis Osei, who held brief for the prosecutor, Usman. The prosecution had filed a counter application asking the court not to consider the defendant's plea for bail. The hoodlums, who had thronged the court in large numbers, held some journalists covering the matter hostage within the court's premises after the presiding judge adjourned the matter. The hoodlums, who identified some of the journalists while the court was in session, threatened to attack them if after the proceedings. The affected journalists involved could not leave the premises for about 40 minutes after adjournment. However, rescue came when some police operatives deployed to the premises escorted the journalists out of the court after hoodlums who converged under a tree outside the court were ordered to vacate the area. Meanwhile, the trial judge, Justice N. Ayo Emmanuel, reserved the ruling on the applications, saying the date of the next sitting will be communicated to the parties in the matter. Following the incessant land grabbing across Lagos State, the Lagos State House of Assembly yesterday resolved to hold a public hearing to address the issue, moving the motion under matters of urgent public importance. Earlier, the lawmaker representing Mushin Constituency 2, Mr. Kazim Olayinka, urged the House to organize a meeting with the stakeholders to address the problem. In his remarks, the Speaker of the House, Mudashiru Obasa, said that land grabbing has become a serious issue that is beyond disturbing. It is chaotic because many people have been killed, some maimed and some locked up without trial just because of the existence of some people who have turned themselves into land grabbers. The Lagos State Police Command has arraigned one Mukailu Mohammed before Magistrate O.Y. Adefope of the Yaba Chief Magistrate Court for allegedly conspiring to commit a felony and stealing. The defendant was arraigned on 2 counts of conspiracy to commit a felony and stealing bags of flour worth 3.6 million naira from Golden Penny Flour Mill, Apapa, Lagos. It was gathered that an investigation had initiated a report filed by the complainant on August 9th, 2023. The complainant alleged that Mohammed, one of their drivers, was entrusted with a truck carrying 650 kilograms bags of flour for delivery to a customer in Agbara, Ogun State. However, it was discovered that Mohammed did not deliver the flour as instructed. Instead, he diverted 120 bags valued at 3.6 million naira and abandoned the truck and the Golden Transport Company on the Woroshoki Expressway, Bagada. Following the report, a team of detectives was assigned to the case. They attempted to apprehend the defendant at his registered residence. However, he was not present. A court order was subsequently obtained to trace the defendant's phone, which revealed his location in Plateau State. Additionally, a court order was procured from the Chief Magistrate's Court, Yaba, to freeze the defendant's bank account. With the cooperation of the bank, the defendant's details were retrieved, facilitating his apprehension. The arrest took place on February 7, 2024 in Plateau State. The Commissioner of Police for Plateau State, Hassan Yabanet, directed the directives to Divisional Police Office, where the defendant was detained. He was subsequently transferred to the Lagos State Criminal Investigation Department, Yaba, for interrogation. Prosecutor Haruna Magaji informed the court that the defendants committed the alleged offenses on August 9, 2023. He added that the alleged offenses contravene Section 411 and Section 280 of the Criminal Law of Lagos State, 2015. He informed the court that the bank statement and the police reports were evidence that the defendants committed the alleged offenses. The defendants pleaded not guilty to the two charges leveled against him. Magistrate Adefepo ordered that the bail of 500,000 naira should be paid and two sureties must be provided with the evidence of residing in Lagos State. The case was adjourned to April 17, 2024. The 33-year-old man, Chidi Isaiah, was on Tuesday sentenced to 21 years imprisonment by Nikeja Sexual Offenders and Domestic Violence Court for attempting to sexually assault his neighbor's 11-year-old daughter. The judgment was handed down by Justice Abiola Sholadeyo after the convict was rearraigned on an amendment charge. The convict was first arraigned on February 15, 2021, on the charge of defilement, to which he pleaded not guilty. The prosecution counsel, A.R. Abolade, informed the court that the defendant had agreed to a plea deal. The convict was rearraigned on 2 counts of attempting to commit sexual assault by penetration and indecent treatment of a child. According to the prosecution, the convict attempted to sexually assault the victim by attempting to have sexual intercourse with her. The prosecution also stated that the convict indecently treated the victim by touching her body indecently. The offenses contravene sections 262 and 135 of the Criminal Law of Lagos State, 2015. He pleaded guilty to the amended charge. Delivering the judgment after the plea had been taken, Justice Sholadoye declared a sentence of 14 years imprisonment for the offense of attempt to commit sexual assault by penetration and a sentence of 7 years imprisonment for the offense of indecent treatment of a child. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency has arrested 14 suspected illegal drug dealers and users in the Atikankan areas of Ado-Ekiti, the state capital. NDLA Ekiti State Commander Sunday Eino stated that the suspects, comprising of 3 illegal drug dealers, were apprehended during a week-long operation tagged Operation Cleanup at Atikankan. He stated that the agency had arrested over 50 suspects in the last month alone. Eino, speaking in Ado-Ekiti on Tuesday while parading the 14 suspects, reiterated the agency's commitment to restoring sanity to the Atikankan area and other drug hotspots across the state, with the aim of making Ekiti and its environs drug-free. The commander further stated that the cannabis sativa, Indian hemp, and methamphetamine called ice were recovered from the suspects. emphasizing that we will not tolerate this. We have zero tolerance for drug abuse and trafficking, and we will fight it relentlessly. Found to be drug users among the suspects would undergo continuous counseling for 2 months, while the legal unit will handle necessary arrangements for the illegal drug dealers. He advised parents to increase vigilance, stating that they should be interested in the type of friends their children keep. It is through peer groups under the guise of friendship that some are lured into big cases and drug use, leading to various crimes, including robbery and kidnapping. The Ilorin Zonal Command of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission on Monday secured the conviction of 6 persons charged with offenses related to cybercrime and fraud. The convicts, who were prosecuted on separate charges, stood trial before Justice Evelyn Anyadike of the Federal High Court and the Justice Adebayo Yusuf of the Kwara State High Court, both sitting in Ilorin. The convicts included Aransiola Stephen, Owoyeye Ezekiel, Idris Kayode, Abdul Rahman Abubakar, Rafiu Adisa, and Rahim Mansour. A statement signed by the head Media and Publicity EFCC, Dele Oyewale, made available to the press in Ilorin on Tuesday, saying that convictions brought the total to 24 out of 50 suspects, comprising 48 students of the Kwara State University and 2 residents of Malete, arrested during a sting operation by operatives of the Ilorin Zonal Command of the agency over offenses related to internet fraud on Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. Following the guilt pleas, Innocent Mbadie, Adebayo Aliyu, Charles Oni, and Rashidat Alao, who represented the commission in these cases, reviewed the facts of the cases and tendered the statements and items recovered from the defendants at the point of arrest, which were admitted in evidence. Having considered the facts placed before the courts and the admission of guilt by the defendants, the justices found them guilty and accordingly sentenced them to various jail terms. The court also ordered that the phones and laptops used in the instruments of the crime by the convicts and the money be brought to them as restitution and be forfeited to the federal government. You've been watching Government and Public Service Reports on Atlantic Television Network right here in the city of Port Harcourt. We will be back after this very short break. Please stay tuned.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human
On the point of order,
Honorable
on the point
on them. They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
people into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human trafficker.
Honorable
You are a human
Understatement.
They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
You're welcome back to Government and Public Service Reports on Atlantic Television Network right here in the city of Port Harcourt. And now to the rest of our stories. The federal government has promised to give the Nigerian Ports Authority necessary backing to address the factors responsible for the underutilization of ports and other national assets at the eastern part of the country. Minister of Marine and Blue Economy Adeboyaga Oyetola disclosed federal government's resolve yesterday in Rivers State in his address at the commissioning of the 4.8-kilometer road D project and the Marine Crafts Arts Onne complex. Oyetola said that the road infrastructure constructed by the MPA and the mooring boats were another testament to the commitment of the ministry under his watch to maximize the entire gamut of opportunities in the maritime sector. The minister said that the 6 mooring boats used to save berth and unberth vessels were federal government's way of further enhancing the security and safety of the maritime space. Oyetola said that although issues concerning the potentials of Onne have always dominated my correspondences with the MPA, I must say that this visit further convinces me that so much more can be achieved if we invest more in our port infrastructure, such as we are doing with the over 1 billion naira worth of reconstruction and rehabilitation on investment in our ports, including Onne, which is at its conclusive stage. Meanwhile, the managing director of NPA, Mohammed Bello Koko, who commended federal government's commitments in sustaining the revitalization of the ports in the zone, noted that the Phase 4B houses were significant portions of the untapped potentials of the Onne port complex. The Senate has called on the federal government to apprehend the perpetrators of the horrific killing of military personnel in Okuama and community in Delta State on March the 14th, 2024, and bring them to book. This is coming after last Thursday's when some army officers and their men who were on a peace mission to the troubled area were reportedly ambushed and killed by armed youths. Our correspondent Rotimi Adewuyi reports.
The Nigerian Senate during plenary on Tuesday called on the federal government to apprehend the perpetrators of the horrific killings of military personnel in Okuma community in Delta State on March the 14th this year and bring them to book. The upper chamber equally called for recruitment of more policemen for adequate internal security and save the military from being dragged into civil matters.
They were not only killed, but their bodies were also decapitated. The unfortunate incident occurred when the troops responded to a distress call after the communal crisis between the Okuama and Okoloba communities, both in Delta State. Recognizes that the tragic incident involving the attack on military personnel from the 181 Amphibious Battalion during a peace mission to Okuama community in Delta State underscores the urgent need for justice and accountability without resorting to retribution. Worried that the understaffing of the Nigerian police has made Nigeria's military to take over internal policing duties such as organized crime, oil theft, communal crisis, kidnapping, banditry, and other policing responsibilities.
These were some of the resolutions reached on Tuesday's plenary after a brief debate on 2 motions by Senator Abdulaziz Yaradua and Senator Ede Dafione. Lawmakers also described the act as provocative, saying that the incident presents danger for the innocent indigenes of the community in the region.
Mr. President, Nigeria, this is crunch time for our country, and we must always ensure that whatever thing that we're doing we must be tolerant with one another. A situation where this number of soldiers will be killed in one swap is highly regrettable. Very sensitive issue, Mr. President. It is very sensitive, and we must handle it in a manner that it will not escalate. You will recall the incidents of OD in the past. We don't want such occurrence in our system, in our country at this point in time, because the entire country is heated up. Anything that will make it to heat up more, we should not allow that to happen.
It's not every day, even in a war situation, it's not every day a country suffers this kind of loss, even in a war, even during war times. All in all, it's a terrible development, a very sad day for our country and our country's military. A lieutenant colonel, 2 majors, and others died in one fell swoop. It's a very sad loss. And we commiserate, and it's appropriate for us to commiserate with them and direct an inquiry.
The Senate President, after the conclusion on the debate on the tragic incident in Delta State, advised the Nigerian military to conduct a thorough investigation to ascertain those involved in the death of the Nigerian soldiers. Rusimi Adewi, ATN News, Abuja.
Members of the House of Representatives from the Southeast region, led by Honorable Ikenga Ugochinyere, described the rejection of the bail application of the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, by a federal high court in Abuja as another major setback in the healing process and return of peace in the region. Justice Binta Yako had rejected Kanu's bail request, rather granted accelerated hearing of terrorism charges brought against him by federal government. Kanu, shortly after the court proceedings on Tuesday, publicly said that he is not behind the violence in the southeastern region of the country. He said those behind the destruction of lives and property in the name of being an IPOB member would not be spared. The House of Representatives has appealed to the Nigerian military to tamper justice with mercy on the people of Okwama and Okoloba communities in Ughelli South and Bomadi local government areas of Delta State respectively. The House also called on the National Emergency Management Agency to provide relief materials to both communities involved to promote peace amongst them. The resolution followed the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance raised during the plenary by Honorable Baba Jimmy Benson, member representing Ikorodu Federal Constituency in Lagos State. Presenting the motion, Honorable Benson said that the military personnel were only responding to a distress call in the service to the fatherland when they were ambushed and killed on Thursday.
The House is aware that these military personnel were only responding to a distress call in their service to their fatherland when they were ambushed and killed on the fateful day. The House is distressed that the perpetrators of the heinous act did not only stop at killing this military personnel, but also sacrilegiously debased their remains by ripping out their hearts and other body parts. The House is worried that unless this act is checked and stopped, acts like this by the very people the Nigerian armed forces are meant to protect have the potential of demoralizing the military and affecting the war on insecurity and insurgency.
An amendment proposing an independent investigation by the House was made by Honorable Francis Wife, representing Ughelli Federal Constituency of Delta, and was adopted by the House.
Speaker, I join the mover of the motion to condemn in the most strongest term the killing of our military personnel. It's something that should not be tolerated anywhere, and the perpetrators must be brought to book. I agree with the prayers that the event, the sad occurrence, to be investigated, except that I request that the House Committee on Defense lead that process. The House Committee on Defense should lead that process. I also request, Mr. Speaker, My people are currently displaced. They are in the bush. Nobody is in the house in that community. The community has been razed down, and people are dying out of hunger, and the ones that were seen had been killed. There's a need for intervention on humanitarian grounds. While the culprits are being investigation will bring out the real perpetrators of this sad occurrence, innocent civilians, innocent law-abiding citizens of this country who happen to come from Ukwama community should not be made to suffer.
A minute of silence for the deceased military personnel was observed by the House. Recall, on Thursday, 14th March 2024, 17 military personnel were killed while on a peaceful and mediatory mission to quell the communal clash between the aforementioned communities in Delta State. The Senate also called on the federal government to embark on an enlightenment campaign to sensitize the public on their civic responsibility as it affects their relationship with security agencies. It, however, rejected a prayer to observe a minute silence in honor of innocent civilians killed in the attack or commiserate with their families, saying their number is still unknown. While the Senate rejected an additional prayer for relief materials for the community by the National Emergency Management Agency, as proposed by Senator Ede Dafinon, it resolved that families of the slain soldiers should be compensated immediately. The Deputy Senate President, Senator Barao Jibrin, moved the motion, which was seconded by Senator Tony Nwonye. Resolutions of the Senate were sequel to a motion of urgent national importance sponsored by Senators Abdulaziz Musa Yaradua and Ede Dafinon. Earlier in his presentation, Senator Yaradua, who is the chairman, Senate Committee on Army, noted that the recent tragic incidents that resulted in the loss of commanding officer, 2 majors, a captain, and 12 soldiers highlighted the serious threat to the security and stability of the country. The Independent National Electoral Commission has restrained political parties against frequent changes in primary election dates, as witnessed recently in Edo State. Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, said that the Commission cannot continue to mobilize, demobilize, and remobilize its officials for the monitoring of party primaries at the convenience of political parties. Professor Yakubu gave the warning sequel to Ondo State Governorship election party primaries slated to begin on the 6th of April 2024 and will end on the 27th of April 2024. The chairman, who disclosed that so far 16 out of the 19 political parties have indicated interest in participating in the elections, and charged parties to stick to the proposed dates and modes of primaries for certainty and optimal deployment of resources.
The portal as at this morning. We urge you to keep to our schedule of activities and avoid last-minute rush that may undermine your ability to successfully nominate your candidates. There will be no extension of time beyond the deadline already published in the timetable and schedule of activities for the election. To enable us publish the personal particulars of candidates, the Form EC9, on 31st March 2024, as provided by law. For the Ondo State Governorship election, party primaries begin in the next 2 weeks, on 6 April 2024, and ends 3 weeks later, on 27th April 2024. So far, 16 political parties out of 19 have indicated interest in participating in the election. I urge political parties to adhere strictly to your proposed dates and modes of primaries. Frequent changes, as we witnessed recently during the Edo primaries, are not only disruptive but costly. The Commission cannot mobilize, demobilize, and remobilize our officials for the monitoring of party primaries for the convenience of political parties. Parties should stick to their proposed dates and modes of primaries for certainty and optimal deployment of resources.
On his part, the national chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, Yusuf Maman Damfale, promised to ensure enforcement of the Code of Conduct for political parties, stressing that when leaders of political parties and political office holders live up to expectations, Nigerians will have a breath of fresh air in governance. He urged political party leaders to be proactive in responding to national issues and engaging governments at all levels on ill-conceived and anti-people policies and actions, preferred alternative course of actions, saying that if this is done, the country would not suffer crisis.
IPAC will set up a constitution and electoral act amendment committee to review glaring irregularities in recent elections and make proposals to the National Assemblies in its ongoing constitution and electoral act amendments. In this regard, IPAC will be proactive to ensure that the Edo and Ondo state gubernatorial elections meet the expectations of Nigerians and international community. So there should be no excuse for poor performance. IPAC will constantly engage INEC as usual and major stakeholders to ensure the success of the elections and will be there for mobilization and voter sensitization monitoring of the polls as usual. IPAC commends the leadership of INEC for the performance so far, and so much still needs to be done to improve the nation's electoral process that will drastically reduce post-election petitions and litigation, just as Council will engage leaders of political parties on strict adherence to internal party democracy, in the nomination of candidates for various elective offices, which will in turn reduce pre-election litigation.
The removal of subsidy on premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, pushed up the statutory revenue allocations from the federation account that was shared by the three tiers of government in 2023 to 10.14 trillion naira. Data released on Tuesday by the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiatives in the latest report on the Federation account revenue allocations for the year 2023 showed that the amount shared by the federal, state, and local governments increased by 1.93 trillion naira last year when compared to what they got in 2022. NAIT attributed this increase to the removal of subsidy on petrol by President Bola Tinubu in May 2023, when he declared during his inaugural address on May 29, 2023, that the fuel subsidy was gone. Tinubu's declaration was immediately implemented by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited the next day, as petrol price jumped from 198 naira per litre to about 500 naira per litre. The cost of the commodity moved up again within a month to 617 naira per litre at the filling stations operated by NNPCL, while other marketers dispensed the product at between 660 naira and 700 naira per litre, depending on the area of purchase. Commenting on the latest report, NAIT's Executive Secretary Dr. Ogbonnaya Orji, who announced the release of the report at the NAIT House, Abuja, said that the agency embarked on a NAIT FAAC quarterly review to enhance public understanding of the Federation accounts allocations and disbursements as published by the government. And this is where we wrap it up on this very edition of the Government and Public Service Reports on Atlantic Television Network right here in the city of Port Harcourt. I am Raymond Ken Mbata, and you can still follow us and stay connected with us on our ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1. On X, formerly Twitter, is on Atlantic TV Net, and watch us live on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. Peace and unity are the pathways to progress, and thank you for watching.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human trafficker.
Honorable they are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but